Once praised as the genius behind NewJeans' rise, Min Heejin's image has taken a dramatic turn, and fans are no longer convinced she's the devoted mentor she claimed to be. With her shocking silence during the group's most critical moments, many are starting to wonder, did she actually care about NewJeans at all, or were they just pawns in her twisted game? At a time when the members of NewJeans were clearly at their most vulnerable, Min Heejin, the person they were taught to trust and rely on, seemed to be busier fighting her own battles. The more serious and legally complicated the situation got for the girls, the faster Min Heejin started running. Some sources have claimed that her sudden uninvolvement wasn't just a coincidence, but rather a calculated move. After being dismissed from her position as CEO of Adore, Min Heejin was officially considered a third party in the case, which means that reaching out to NewJeans directly could have been interpreted as interference or even artist tampering. That kind of legal misstep could have backfired tremendously for her, especially as the lawsuits grew more complicated. But even if that were true, even if the safest option was to step away, the complete radio silence has been difficult for fans to digest. These are the same members who once looked up to her, who credited her for building their image, who believed she'd stand by them if things ever fell apart. And now, when things actually did collapse, they've been left to handle the damage on their own. To many, it felt like she had chosen her legal battle over the emotional toll it was taking on the girls, a move that didn't sit right with fans who remembered how vocal she once was when it benefited her. The contrast was honestly disturbing. One moment, she was holding press conferences and calling out HYBE directly, and the next, she was completely absent while the group struggled to hold themselves together in front of the media. Her last public appearance didn't carry the same energy or conviction as before, and instead of feeling like a leader defending her team, she looked more like someone who had already distanced herself from the mess. One thing's for sure, fans definitely aren't having it. Some netizens even went as far as to suggest that this was a long game of revenge designed to hurt HYBE but leaving NewJeans as collateral damage in the process. And with HYBE now appearing more composed and legally prepared than ever, it's becoming harder and harder for fans to justify her silence. Netizens are slowly coming to terms with the idea that Min Heejin's current tactic shouldn't come as a surprise, as she made it clear that her thoughts towards the girls aren't always positive. In July of last year, Dispatch released some of her shocking alleged Kakao Talk messages, and what was revealed truly left fans speechless. Far from the image of a mentor fighting for her group, the text painted Min Heejin as someone who saw NewJeans less as artists and more as tools. They were described as tools she used to elevate her own name. In the leaked conversation, she allegedly referred to the members as immature kids, obsessed with fame, complaining that they were exhausting to manage and implying that they were too shallow to even understand the work being done for them. She didn't stop there. She allegedly went on to claim that they only cared about looking in the mirror and thinking about dancing, brushing off their dedication and effort as nothing more than surface-level vanity. The messages made it sound as though she saw herself as the sole architect of their success, with the members contributing little more than pretty faces and youthful ambition. It wasn't just the condescension towards them that stirred up problems, it was the outright cruelty that shocked fans the most. In one especially disturbing comment, Min Heejin apparently mocked the girls' appearances, making fat-phobic remarks and joking about them gaining weight like a pig, while demanding that they be grateful for the popularity she was supposedly handing them. Rather than encouraging and protecting them, her alleged comments suggested that their worth depended entirely on staying thin and obedient. She also reportedly implied that any success they had wasn't theirs to claim, but something they owed entirely to her, treating gratitude as a requirement rather than something earned through mutual respect. The idea that she had ever viewed the members as equals or even respected individuals quickly began to fall apart after these supposed texts were made public. What's even more concerning is how these messages align with the way NewJeans have been presented to the public since their debut. Many are now revisiting the group's carefully controlled image, such as their soft-spoken interviews, their modest styling, their extremely curated public personas, and wondering how much of it was actually built to serve Min Heejin's vision rather than reflect the members themselves. Some fans have even gone as far as to call it a form of manipulation, accusing her of creating an artificial narrative that kept the girls dependent on her for validation, while actively diminishing their voices behind closed doors. More leaked chats seem to haunt Min Heejin, as recently exposed Kakao Talk messages between her and a shaman have thrown everything into question. They painted a picture of a woman who didn't see NewJeans as artists, but as assets, and whose every move behind the scenes may have been more manipulative than fans ever imagined. In the messages, Min Heejin is seen obsessing over her control within the label, openly expressing her desire to build her own group and gain full credit for its success, all while sidelining others and even mocking key figures in the industry. But what truly disturbed fans was the way she spoke about the group dynamics, making it clear that the girl group wasn't a team she wanted to grow with, but a product she needed to win with. From planning aggressive business takeovers to strategizing how to push out label staff and gain complete control, the entire tone tone of the conversation felt cold, calculated, and painfully devoid of the emotional connection she once claimed to have with NewJeans. What made matters worse was the mention of Danielle, who was then a fan favorite trainee, often seen as one of the most naturally charismatic people in the group. Min Heejin allegedly specifically discussed bringing Danielle in for her image and the attention it would generate, further confirming that she viewed the girls not as individuals with dreams and fears, but as strategic parts of her marketing plan. But the most shocking revelation of all might be what appears to be her long-running ambition to take NewJeans for herself, quite literally. In one of the most disturbing parts of the leaked conversation, Min Heejin allegedly outlined a two-part negotiation strategy that included a disturbing line, stealing a girl group. While the name wasn't explicitly stated, fans quickly pieced things together, and given the timing and context, all signs pointed to NewJeans. It didn't take long for theories to explode online. Many now believe that Min Heejin didn't just stumble into conflict with HYBE, she actually orchestrated it. According to one viral fan post, she joined the company with the intention of hijacking a successful girl group that HYBE had already built using their own resources, money, and infrastructure. The same fan claimed they had seen it coming months ago, calling it exactly what it seems to be now: a strategic infiltration disguised as creative leadership. Even in the most recent hearing for the lawsuit filed by HYBE on the termination of its shareholder agreement with Min Heejin, which took place on June 12th of this year, her side holds on to the narrative that NewJeans is supposedly nothing without her. According to Min Heejin's legal team, the group became like orphans after her dismissal from Adore, a claim that reignited intense debate across the fandom. She insisted that without her, the members were left completely unprotected. No proper care, no management, and no one to shield them from having their rights trampled amidst the growing tensions. In fact, she's now tying their controversial contract suspension back to this exact moment. Her side claims that it wasn't some act of rebellion or premeditated move, but rather a cry for help. Her team argues that once she was forced out, the girls were left to fend for themselves in a fractured management system that failed them entirely. With no consistent support and no one advocating for their artistic vision or safety, Min Heejin claims NewJeans had no choice but to walk away, and that this decision, made in November, was the direct result of HYBE's actions. Her team attempted to strongly push back on HYBE's claim that she planned to steal NewJeans and then sacrifice the girls, HYBE, and Adore for her own interests. They argued that she hadn't planned anything of the sort, and instead they spun the story to one of neglect, that by pushing Min Heejin out and dismantling the structure she built, HYBE had essentially abandoned the group, and in the absence of real leadership, they allegedly had had enough, not because they were manipulated into it, but because they had been failed at every level. But the public isn't buying this defense, not even a little. To many fans, the claim that NewJeans were orphans after Min Heejin's departure feels not just exaggerated, but entirely disconnected from reality. How could a group that traveled internationally, headlined massive events, secured top-tier brand endorsements, and maintained a full-scale media presence possibly be described as abandoned? What stings even more for some netizens is the implication that the group was helpless without Min Heejin, when in fact the timeline barely supports her argument. She resigned, and within days, NewJeans submitted their own request to terminate their contracts. There was no meaningful time given to explore new leadership options, so the girls never actually experienced what a career without Min Heejin felt like. This decision to many looks predetermined, as if the girls were never given the chance to decide for themselves because they were already convinced that NewJeans wouldn't function without Min Heejin. And this is exactly what makes this entire situation so hard to stomach. The idea that these incredibly privileged idols with massive financial backing, a full team, elite stylists, and luxury living spaces were being cast as abandoned and mistreated feels out of touch. Fans argue this is a historical example of emotional manipulation within the industry, exposing how these girls were mentally cornered into believing they had no future unless they followed Min Heejin's lead. But it seems like her reign is over, forever this time. The shareholder lawsuit filed by HYBE is already not looking favorable for her, with piles of evidence being gathered against her. HYBE has made it clear that they believe the damage she has done is irreversible, pointing to Min Heejin's actions as the very reason Adore's original mission failed. They even went a step further by accusing her of going behind the scenes to manipulate not just the group, but also the parents of the members. According to HYBE, she reportedly persuaded the parents to issue coordinated statements, orchestrating responses that aligned with her side of the story and undermined any possibility of neutral negotiation. It doesn't stop there though, because in a recent broadcast, controversial entertainment insider Lee Jin-ho revealed even more troubling allegations that Min Heejin had devised a calculated strategy to sway public opinion using the media. Submitted as part of the court evidence, a series of Kakao Talk messages allegedly show her openly discussing how to weaponize the press, coordinating with trusted contacts, shaping headlines, and directing the narrative to vilify HYBE while reinforcing her own position as the misunderstood visionary. The messages even even include discussions about targeting specific media outlets to push favorable coverage, suggesting a level of manipulation that goes far deeper than anyone had anticipated. Ultimately, whether Min Heejin wins or loses this trial might not even matter anymore, because the damage is done, and while the figures involved continue to fight for power, credibility, and control, the ones truly caught in the crossfire are NewJeans. These girls now seem like nothing more than pawns in a brutal game played by forces far larger than them.